Hello, I'm Charles Knight, Assistant Director for Knowledge and Innovation at Advanced HE. I'm with Professor Bill Buchanan, OBE, who is a cybersecurity academic who teaches at Edinburgh Napier University. He was nominated and won the Most Innovative Teacher of Higher Education at the 2023 Times Higher Education Awards. It's very nice to meet you, Bill. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing and that you won your award for?
Where do I start? I mean, I'm a teacher, and that is such a privilege. I don't think I'll ever forget how much a privilege it is to teach students, and fundamentally, universities are there to pass on knowledge, either if it's with industry or with our students, and to really engage with all the stakeholders that we deal with. So I also do research. And I'm in the extremely privileged position that I teach and research into the same area. I call it cryptography, digital trust, blockchain, whatever. Uh, I think I've got to the point in my career that I not only teach the subject that I love, but I do research into it. So rather than having to double account for my time, where my research and teaching is divorced, everything that I learn, I feed into my research. Everything from my research feeds into my teaching. And I enjoy it because I think that the subject I teach, cryptography, is building a new world of trust. We have an old world, a legacy world that's filled of paper-based systems, and we're moving towards a true digital world. But that world brings lots of issues in privacy, in security, and so on. So I think cryptography is the building blocks of our future society. And if we get this right, we've built the internet in 50 years or so, and I've seen it grow from fitting on a floppy disk almost to something that encapsulates our life every microsecond, that can build amazing societies, amazing companies, and so on, but can also decimate our rights to privacy and so on. So I'm a professor. I lead a research group. My main responsibility is obviously to teaching, though.
So what I find interesting about your work, and my PhD is in information systems, so your area is very fascinating to me. But what I took from your awards and reading the commendation is that you've taken a subject and it can be quite technical, but you've really brought it to life in your teaching, particularly because I think your work has a lot of externality. There's clear linkage to the outside world in terms of making sure that students really understand both the theoretical rigor, if I can call it that, of what you're trying to do. But it's always contextualized your work and the work that you won the award for by making sure that there's that reflection about what does this actually mean in practice. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it's completely correct. And really, I always worried about teaching students with different modes. So some students will never turn up to lectures. Some students are distant and can only study at certain periods, such as at the weekend or in the evenings and so on. So I think our philosophy has always been, and this was well before COVID times, has always been to make sure that every single student gets the same experience, no matter uh, what mode they're studying in. Some people like to read books. Some people like to watch videos of lectures. I find that they're in the minority. I think very few people ever listen back to lectures. But there's a way that they will feel supported, and that no matter which way they learn, and it's typically just before an assessment, they can cram and so on. But really, the lecture situation is the anchor point in education. I mean, we wouldn't want to get rid of great teachers in our classrooms for our kids, because that interaction between the teacher and the pupil is special. If you look back to your career, there are teachers in your life that have inspired you. I remember at school, it was a biology teacher. I don't know why I didn't end up in biology, but the biology teacher made the subject alive, and people listened to him, and he cared, and he was so passionate. And then through my career, I've been exposed to some amazing teachers who were so innovative, uh, that adopted technology, but at their heart really wasn't that automation, but it was to make their teaching better, to inspire, to engage, and to make it fun. And why shouldn't education be fun? But if you walk out of a lecture and say, well, that was funny, then you've been to a show. That's a comedy show, or the theatre. But to walk out of a lecture, say, I actually understand public key encryption now a little bit, and I can see how public key encryption has saved the internet. And I can see that every single web connection that I make to a server is protected through this magical cryptography, through public key encryption, through the symmetric key, and so on. So I think I've always felt that you need relevance in your teaching. If you're talking about something that doesn't relate to the jobs market or future careers or something that happens in day to day, then you're really struggling to justify it. So we've always wanted to really engage and enthuse. And for over 10 years, this is well before COVID, we put lectures online. And at the time, people say, "What? Why are you putting your lectures online?" So, well, it allows. Well, why put it? Why not put it on Moodle? And why put it on YouTube? And obviously, if you put it on YouTube, then it's much more accessible to any student, no matter where they are in the world. So it breaks down the ivory towers of a university and the libraries that we used to build that had physical walls. You open up knowledge to the rest of the world. You share that knowledge. So when it came to engaging, then obviously one successful area has been the doodles. So I have my pens here. So these are my pens. So I've always been a very abstract person. When I present, I'll present in images. And I've always liked the style of drawing and having a voiceover. So why do you need even the person in a video? It's embarrassing. I don't like necessarily to see myself. Uh, but what I want to do is to draw and to illustrate things. So with a simple piece of paper and just drawing with a camera above, you can actually lay out the subject. And you find when people study, I don't know about you, but when I studied, I used to draw complex diagrams about how all the topics fitted together, and I would build a mind map. So when I went into an exam or a test, I could visualize and I could bring it back together because we're very abstract, our brain. Well, I don't know if I'm different, but I think I always think in a mathematical, abstract way. Words are very important, and I've learned how to articulate words, but I see myself as very technical. And what I do as a professor and as a researcher is to abstract simplicity from complexity. And I think when it comes to cryptography, there are too many research papers that don't engage. You read a research paper on cryptography and it's got 12 pages of mathematics. In fact, if you just distilled it down, there's one little bit of maths in there, and all the rest is just fluff that's there to make it look impressive and so on. So I think as a researcher, it's that, and as a good teacher, it's that ability to look at your topic, understand what the key elements are and how you teach it and so on, and how knowledge builds up. I mean, you don't go into public key encryption straight off and digital signatures. You talk about symmetric key encryption and then hashing methods and key exchange. And we've been very lucky. So we talk about key exchange and who created key exchange, who created public key encryption? Whitfield Diffie and Marty Hellman, the Diffie-Hellman method. And you tell students, guess what? This evening, today I'm going to talk about key exchange, what saved the internet, and it's involved in every single connection. And we've got Whitfield Diffie coming along this evening to talk to you. How good is that? And then in 2 weeks' time, we've got Marty Hellman. Marty Hellman created the mathematics that was involved in the Diffie-Hellman method, and Diffie-Hellman proposed public key encryption. It's a bit like having Einstein
Yeah.
or Maxwell coming along in a physics lecture or maths to say, this evening we've got Isaac Newton coming along to talk to us about physics. You go, wow. It's not just that we're outlining, but here are the people whose brains, whose mind actually created these methods. And I think the wonderment of technology is something that really would never leave me. The other thing is that I think too often cybersecurity, we teach wide and thin. And unfortunately, that's the world that we're moving towards. Thin knowledge because Wikipedia
Yeah.
and ChatGPT is there to do the depth. That needs to change. What we need is more expertise and depth of knowledge. And certainly in cybersecurity, there are so many areas. So we try to take the topics and make them deep. Understand the maths, understand the formalities. An engineer needs to understand how bricks fit together and need to understand the foundations and everything about the bridge, and not just that the bridge can carry cars and vehicles and so on. Needs to understand. So I think that engineering approach has never really left me. I need to understand not only what's in the car or about the car, but how the car works. How does the mechanics work, and how does this all work together? So that engineering approach has never left me.
I think it's absolutely fascinating, and it's very clear to me from your enthusiasm for your specialism and your discipline that this is why you won the award for most innovative teacher in higher education. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.